let me introduce our VIP speaker, Congressman Pete Sessions. He is an amazing American. He's an Eagle Scout who leads Eagle Scouts. He has a son with Down syndrome who is an Eagle Scout. He is a businessman who is a successful business leader in Texas, was elected to the U.S. Congress, now chairs the House Rules Committee. When I decided that I wanted to spend my time working on disability issues, I had the great fortune of meeting his staff person, Counter French, who is just exemplary American.
The great Counter French.
The great Counter French.
The awesome Counter French.
Who just is really outstanding. When I had the idea to write an actual business plan to try and say this is what we want to accomplish, and I didn't want to publish anything that was wrong, these good folks were gracious enough to give me very constructive criticism and feedback so we could make it better. You know, there are very few people who care more about this issue, if any people, who care about more about this issue than Congressman Pete Sessions, and they also got us this room today and set up all the logistics for us, and I just could not be more excited to partner with this individual who's a great American, a great disability advocate, and a new friend. So thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to do this.
Much appreciated.
By the way, I don't do this by myself. Generally speaking, I think everybody knows this. People who hang around you because they have common values, common ideas. And I learned a long time ago that you can mentor people, but they got to have a desire to want to walk in your shoes and do those things. I really come at this issue, the disability issue, from probably at least 3 very specific disabilities. First, Down syndrome. Second, cerebral palsy. And third, blindness. I'm probably one of the go-to people for Down syndrome by virtue of my son being 19 years old. There are other members that have younger children. And I am the retina guy in the United States Congress. I've taken time to study retinas, photoreceptor cells, the issue of blindness, up to and including taking on what's the name of the handheld that you read books off of?
Kindle.
Up to and including taking on the Kindle guys. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Matter of fact, I told him, you're making a mistake. I enjoy it. I will enjoy this. What I want to take a few minutes and talk with you about is the importance of what you're doing today. Maybe I can lend a little bit of my ideas. Hi, how you doing? I can lend some of my ideas from my perspective. But the first thing I want to say is I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for getting together and caring. Perhaps it's about yourself or a loved one, but probably it's mostly about people who we don't know. People who richly deserve a chance at life and opportunity. I learned a long time ago with my Down syndrome son that he's perfect only to God. I mean, even his father and mother have to admit it's not perfect. And maybe we don't have misgivings about Alex at all, but about what he struggles with, we struggle with too. And God has made us, every one of us, perfect in His eyes, and it's up to us to try and do the best we can. What is my advice to you today? My advice to you today is I tend to recognize that what you're trying to do is to fight a battle to overcome public perception. That you're trying to win, not just fight. And that you're trying to make sure that in that process people change their opinion, not of necessarily of what you're doing, but really about the need for us as a civilization, as a people, to get closer to making life better, not living with this, not accepting it, but rather how we all work together to better the lives so that the next person may have a better life than the one before had. We have always lived on the shoulders of those who have been giants. I live on the shoulders of Gene Stallings, a very dear friend of mine who had Johnny. And Johnny passed away. Johnny was about 44 and passed away. He's a Down syndrome man. Gene Stallings was a coach at the University of Alabama. And Johnny, his son, got to be with him when they won the National Football Championship. But we're always living on others who have gone before us. So that means we have a responsibility to be serious when it's our time and to accurately see things for what they are and not to accept them or to necessarily try and understand them, but to leave, as an Eagle Scout, to leave our campsite better than the way we found it. To know that we really did something better. Unique, yes, maybe, but better, to better the lives of the people we said we would do. So you want to talk about how do we go and change public policy. There's a lot of things that I have learned as a parent, probably as a member of Congress, and that is the squeaky wheel is how you get things done. Not because you have good policy, not because you're wise, or not because you have a good idea, but actually because you are willing to point up something that you believe is worthy of noting, of making better. And I think one of the biggest injustices we do is that we are stuck in a world where people think if you're disabled, we should keep you that way. We should keep you poor, we should keep you humble, and we should keep you to where you have to have other people's help. And one of the things which I would like to do, and we do this a lot, I mean, thank goodness we had Helen Keller. My gosh, Helen Keller overcame enormous odds. We see lots of other people who have overcome enormous odds, but we need to change a public perception that a person who is disabled has to stay within the mindset of having the government to take care of them. And we should be in a mindset of we need them to go as far as they can go with just as much help as we give anybody else. We don't make other people stay poor. We don't make other people beg for the products or services they get. We don't do those things, and yet we do this for our children and young adults, and I'm sure older adults too. I know as you get into work, I'm not there yet, Alex, but there are work rules about how much money you can make before and still receive. I'll get there. I'm aware of those.
Good. You'll get to experience them.
You know what? This is so true. This is so true, and I've made the same statement about being a Down syndrome dad, that I know things that the others don't know yet, and others know things that I don't know, that I haven't learned yet. But I would encourage us to ground in or to live off a principle of us trying to make things better for people through fairness and opportunity. And that there's nothing wrong with a person getting the benefit of a hand up. I don't want to say a hand out. A hand up to equal their ability to live a full life. Secondly, I learned a long time ago most of the world does not understand a disability. I was speaking with a very senior member. I'm a full committee chairman. I was speaking with another full committee chairman about something called the ABLE Act. The ABLE Act is a piece of legislation that you know Andrew Crenshaw has taken on and is doing an awesome job with. But it requires all of us. And this person said to me, a senior member of our conference, oh, but that's too open-ended. And I said, and that was the cost. I said, do you have any clue what it's like to be open-ended yourself as a result of that? And he said, no, but Pete, we just can't. And I said, when Alex was 4 years old, he had to have his teeth cleaned. We had to pay $700 for an anesthesiologist so that we could get Alex's teeth cleaned. Oh, well, I didn't understand that. You get his teeth cleaned 3 times a year, you're out $2,100 just on anesthesiologist. If you have a cerebral palsy child or adult, they require lifts and wheelchairs and things break, and you aren't even in the ballpark for understanding how many things people need. If you have a retina problem and you cannot see, it goes well into the future of things you've never thought about. And all of a sudden, Dave Camp, the senior member of our conference, got enlightened. I spoke to him as a parent with that desire for him to understand, and he ended up being a member of Congress. But then all of a sudden, he understood why the legislation was written the way it was. So what I would do is I would simply say, tell our story. We have to tell our story, and we need to not be loud. We need to be heard. We need to be articulate. But to the best that you can, I would suggest to you the 501c3 model, that there are ways in which you can get people's attention to understand. They can understand about people and how important they are. Best buddies. Does anybody ever land in Baltimore, Maryland? And no, Pittsburgh Airport. I'm sorry. Pittsburgh Airport, and the Boy Scouts has a ad which you're met when you get on the tram. I forget what it says, but it was, I'm a big Boy Scouter. It was the greatest Boy Scout. I've seen thousands of Boy Scout things. This said it. There are ways to say about things. And whether it's Best Buddies, who I think does a pretty good job, or some other organizations, I think there's a way we can say, I'm a person too. I have needs and desires, and I'm trying my best. And I'm not asking for anything special. I'm asking for fairness. And it seems to cut across a lot of lines when you use the word fairness. And we use words like I'm trying to do my best, or the way to do things. So I just want to push you on. I find myself today more, not in a genteel mood, because I've just come back from talking to about 80 kids about their future, and I talk to them about a lot of things, but rather say thank you. I am a piece part of what you're doing. I'm simply a piece part. I go do what I do, and I think I do it for all of us. And I think I try and do as best I can when I can. But I think we can do a lot when we do it together, and I think that message ought to be told. As a parent with a Down syndrome child, I will tell you, the things I needed most was not people's sympathies. I needed people who were willing to say, I want to get involved. And I had lots of people who said, wow, boy, y'all are great. And very few people who would actually come and hold him. I'm not sure. Can I do something wrong? I said, no, he's a normal kid. I mean, you know, from every perspective. And it wasn't a stigma. It was, I'm unsure. Need to tell them we're real people. We hurt like real people. We have cares like real people. We have desires like real people, just like you. I think we're going to say, just like you, I was just born a little differently. Because it's true. What do y'all want to talk about?
Questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you for being here and taking time and arranging this room for us today. I think one of the big disappointments for our community this year was on the Senate side with the rejection of the UN Treaty on people with disabilities. And you mentioned being able to educate people as to what it is and what something isn't. And it got, somehow a rumor got started that this was going to allow the UN to come in and control homeschooling, which there's nothing in that we're due to. How do we convince the members of the U.S. Senate who voted no on that 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 wasn't the case and that this is really important to us?
Well, I would take the things which you're for, and take the word UN out, and be for what you're for, and ask them to be for that. And I will just tell you, I would never invoke the UN's name in anything I do. But I can be for the things which might have been in that legislation. But I would be for what's common sense. So I would say I would take out the word UN. I know it's as a result of a world conference, a worldwide effort aimed at what we're trying to do with disability from really a civilization perspective. But I would say what you're for and say that. And I have not studied the issue. Mr. French and I spoke about it at the time because I got asked about it. And I haven't studied it, haven't looked at it. But the UN, to people that don't live in Washington, D.C. and New York City, is not very popular. And that would be like saying you're for any number of things that aren't real popular, but it's okay. The product that resides with it would be okay. So I'm willing to work with you on it. I've not been asked to, so I'll be glad to work with you on it. And those things which are good attributes, we ought to push. Secondly, I'm less into a lot of worldwide movements and believe that if we can prove them in here in the United States, they can take hold other places. And I think the perception was we were taking what somebody else wanted instead of what was good for us. And the problem is I'm a Texan. And Texans tend to be, we're a very progressive, straightforward state. We are not into trying to harm people or trying to help them. An example I give is this year, the state of Illinois gave their higher education universities a $126 million IOU. They had to go take a loan out off an IOU, and the state of Texas gave an increase of $4 billion to their state education fund. The state of Illinois reduced their amount of money that they contributed to mental health by some 14%. Texas increased theirs 15%. And they were on par. I think I come from a very understanding, thoughtful state. And I think that where we are is hung up on, let's do what we ought to do, and then maybe don't have to say exactly where all the ideas come from. When I was at Bell Labs in New Jersey, I learned if you get an idea from one source, that's called plagiarism. If you use it, if you get it from two sources, it's called research. I think we ought to say research and blame it on what the United States is, what's in our best interest. So I hope I'm really not trying to fight with you at all, because I don't know enough about it, but I do remember when it was an issue, and the UN was enough that people backed away. Rightly or wrongly, I feel the same way. Yes, sir.
Just today we had a focus group among various, like maybe 18 or so Republican Hill staffers, and one of the things that a lot of them suggested, and some of the think tanks and stuff also, some of the people suggested similar at the Faith and Freedom Conference, which Jennifer sent me to, that people with disabilities are better off without the ADA. Do you, the employment percentage is the same as it was in 1990. Do you think the ADA is beneficial or harmful to people with disabilities?
As you may remember, President George W. Herbert Walker Bush, 41, is the one that pushed the ADA.
Yeah.
And he believed deeply that the issue had to be taken head on. I believe the issue of disabilities must reside in all of our thinking, whether it's business, whether it's education, whether it's health care, whether it's the way we treat each other. There are always going to be naysayers and people who say, not sure what's right or wrong. I would say I think he did the right thing.
Okay.
I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. I don't mean to go, but that's my next thing that I've got to go to. I wanted to do well enough to be invited back, however.
I think you succeeded. You're terrific. Thank you.
God bless each of you, and I really do mean this when I say that every single person in here has a responsibility to make life better for others, and particularly those who have been given so much. It's just fate that others fell upon what they did, and I believe in making their life better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.